HIV LPFM in New Orleans. We are Radio NOLA HIV with programming. That's right, programming dedicated to human rights and social justice. WHIVFM.org. We honor independent voices. We are not a radio station with a mission. No, we are a mission with a radio station that is to end all wars. Hello, my name is Dr. Mark Allen-Derry, and this is the every other daily hour-long show called NoiseFilter. Sitting across the digital divide is my friend and yours, and that is Doc Griggs. Say hello, Doc Griggs.
Hello, Doc Griggs. I don't know if I can hold my breath that long. So, back in shape.
For a singer.
Yeah, you caught me off guard.
And for somebody who blows trumpet, or at least in our next cartoon.
Yeah.
Anyway, hello everybody. It's so nice to see everybody. We last week I was out of town. It was just very difficult to do shows. On Monday, we decided we're going to change the format a bit of the show. We are going to be spending a little bit more time doing more general medicine, but of course we're all going to still be focusing on COVID as well. So ideally, the show is going to be a little bit, it's going to focus a bit more on medical stuff, infectious diseases, general medicine, and stuff like that, while also still focusing on all things COVID. So we'll see how this pans out. We are still going to be.
But we have to include a caveat. So while Dr. Derry was preparing for the show today, of course he was looking for medical news, and all of it just so happened to be.
Right. The majority of it was COVID. So I actually have it. Today was the first day that I actually went through and looked for general medical news that wasn't COVID. I know that's crazy. That's something I should be doing regularly, but I didn't. I haven't. And funny enough, it turns out that when I go to all the regular medical sites, it was all COVID almost all the time. So, but again, we are going to be shifting. We took our podcast, we dropped the name COVID off of the podcast, so now it's going to just be called NoiseFilter. And I don't know if we premiered our second. Did we premiere our second?
No, we did not. Can we show it today?
Yeah, why don't we start off with showing you guys our second animation?
Let's do that.
Yeah, this is a good way to start. So we do have a second animation. We're actually up to 5 right now, but we've got 2 of them that have officially dropped, as they say in the business. And this next one is all about variants. So we've been so hit and miss and out of town and all that stuff that we actually haven't had a chance to share the second animation with you. And so we will do that as soon as this ad is over. We'll flip over and be happy to share this one. This one, Doc Griggs, a lot of people like, including yourself. And that's largely due to the fact that this actually has Dr. Griggs' name in it, as this is called the what is it called? It's called the vicious variant. No, the big bad variant and the 3 little Griggs. Doc, is that what?
Yep, 3 little Griggs.
Yeah,
Grayman liked that.
He liked the gray. Yes, absolutely. Yes, this is a variant animation. So without further ado, this is our second animation, and enjoy. Doc, let me know if you could hear this.
Hey, let's go. I'm Dr. Mark Allen-Derry, and I'm an infectious diseases doctor and epidemiologist.
And I'm Doc Griggs, and I'm a community health specialist. On this episode of COVID Noise Filter, we're talking about COVID vaccines and variants.
So you meant to snap us into some 3 little pigs' tale?
Watch and learn. Imagine your body is like a house, and COVID-19 is trying to break in. Antibodies created from vaccines are like your security system, recognizing the intruder and destroying it. But viruses are smart, and they mutate, putting on new disguises to bypass your security system.
Even if you're vaccinated, COVID-19 variants will emerge and transmit, and your antibodies will have trouble recognizing them.
That's why we need a booster shot.
mRNA vaccines help your immune system recognize COVID-19. When the virus mutates, the booster shot provides updated antibodies specifically designed to fight these new variants.
Basically, we need to update our security system to keep out these new nasty neighbors.
That's a wrap on today's episode. Ready to roll?
Dude, please, no, please don't.
That still makes me laugh, Doc Craig.
That's fun.
No matter how many times I've watched that, I still get a kick out of it.
Folks, we want your honest opinion and thoughts. We have an amazing team, Dave, Roston, and the Fable Vision team. We have some big stuff coming out later that we won't talk about yet because we have 2 more in the pipeline. So, yeah.
3 more.
3 more in the pipeline. At least 3 more in the pipeline.
We have 3 more in the pipeline that are going to be coming. What do people understand the ending when you show it to them?
Kind of, sort of, but they're so excited about the cartoon that they think anything's possible. So I'm with it.
So in the end, the joke is, and it was supposed to show it on the first video, but the joke was that I always snap us into the wrong place. And in this case, I snapped us into, is it the Goldilocks and the 3 Bears?
Yeah.
Yeah,
but we brought the pig with us. We like the pig. We kept the
pig. Everybody likes the pig. The pig is the
pig is our spirit animal. Yeah. Yeah.
The pig is the spirit animal.
Yes, that
is very funny. It was a lot of work went into that when I was still in Pennsylvania. We wrote that script when I was still in Pennsylvania, which is crazy because it was a long time ago. It seems like it.
Folks, I tell you what, it takes a lot. Yes, they're freely available and shareable if you go to our YouTube channel, which is
Noise. I'm gonna send the links over to you guys right now.
Cool. You can put it in the chat.
Yeah, I'm gonna put it in the chat. So this is for the first video here, and then I just got a message saying that it would not go onto all. It went onto one Facebook chat and went onto the YouTube. So if you didn't get that, whatever.
So tell them where to go on YouTube. Just like spell it out. Yeah,
it's just the NoiseFilter channel. It's if you go to NoiseFilter, the YouTube channel for NoiseFilter. Not only are you going to see this streaming there, but you'll also see the 2 videos that are there. But it seems like everybody who's watching right now is watching through Dr. Mark Allen, so you should be able. Please share them. We would love to have you guys share them. Unfortunately, they're being blocked on social media because of COVID vaccine misinformation, even though this is actually real information. Because disinformation exists, unfortunately, these are being flagged and they're not able to get around. So, which is a drag, but it's the reality of the situation. There's really nothing we can do about it. So hopefully we are looking for ways of distributing these videos. We think that they're very important. And so any support from you guys with respect to being able to get them out to your social media networks, friends, and what have you is always going to be appreciated. Doc? Yeah, so we didn't realize we would be as timely as we were with this. This was done, 3 months ago, and did not realize we realized variants would be an issue. We didn't realize they would be as timely as they are now. We expect more to come because we know more. There's a reason that there's nothing but COVID in the in the news chatter these days. So brace yourself, prepare yourself, folks. But let's just kind of get through it. Cartoons are fun. If y'all can think of topics, other things that you want to see, COVID related or not related, we would love to hear the ideas so we can work on putting it together. We told you of our dream, our wand, and what we're working and pursuing with the first one. Do you want to tell them about the rocks? Yeah, NoiseFilter Rock is, our dream is to be able to parlay these animations into kind of the old-fashioned, the old style Schoolhouse Rock animations that we saw growing up on Saturday mornings. But rather than focusing on what Schoolhouse Rock did, which was really a great job, did a lot of civics and history stuff. We want to focus a little bit more on health and helping to eliminate health disparities. So that's what we are trying to do with NoiseFilter Rock. It's a big, big vision. It's a big dream. We actually, have a website that's going to be going live here. The NoiseFilterShow.com website actually is being rebuilt from the bottom up. It's no longer going to be a landing page, which is what essentially was. But what we are going to be doing is looking to see if we can partner with people. Like Tamiko said, like Department of Defense childcare programs. What we want to do is we want to make these animations by adding music to them, making them a minute long to start, and then ideally, could we parlay these into 15-minute or 20-minute, or 30-minute animations that teach lessons through some sort of through the combination of being good storytelling, good animation, good on-screen kind of characters, the way that Dr. X and I, the flow, and then through music. Can we do it through music? And so that's kind of the big dream. That's what we've been working on now for the past few months. Our website should go live tomorrow or on Friday. It's a big dream. It's a it's a long shot, but every answer will be no unless you try.
Yeah. So, and I'm going to give you long shot, but I don't think it's a long shot. No such thing as a long shot. You got people like Steph Curry shooting from half court. I think it's a shot, and I think we can make it. And I think they're all shots, man, and they all count for either 2 or 3 points. 3 points if you're shooting from where we're shooting from. So, I think let's win this thing. I'm with it.
And I actually think that I am aware that Steph Curry is a basketball player.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, okay. I'll give you that.
Eric, before we get started with our kind of quasi new format, it's still kind of old format, still we need to change. But I know that you were on the news today, but the last couple of days that you were on the news, anything of interest that you remember talking about?
What have we talked about? I mean, it's my days have been piling up. I was last on Monday, and on Monday, I vaguely remember. I know the hot thing right now is they're talking about inflammation in teens, the myocarditis, and the CD. I'll be talking about that tomorrow because the CDC is supposed to make an announcement today. I think they found over 1,200 cases of the myocarditis. 79% of them resolved and were mild with no hospitalization, if not more. But it's something to look at. I really. Folks, I've been without going into big details. I've been going through a lot over this last month. It's like trying to sit up, and someone keeps splashing you with water when you're laying down. When you're laying down at the beach, you're laying just in the surf, and every time you try to get up, a wave knocks you back down. You got to catch your breath. So I've been kind of going through the motions of things. Life has been very interesting lately. There's a lot of lessons learned and a lot of good things on the horizon. But I've been really kind of out of it. The COVID has its way of intensifying other things that happen, I guess. I don't know, but we'll be good. Yeah,
absolutely. And Grace, we're here with you, whatever we can do to help you get through this. Obviously there was 2 articles, actually. One a colleague of mine wrote and sent me today, and then a second article that was in Vox today, looking at doctors, particularly and the need for mental health and behavioral health interventions. And it's been a rough year for us, but Doc Griggs especially. And it's when you don't see us on air, the reason mostly is just because one of us just needs time. Because it's just been so intense for the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, I mean, you talk about intense. I'll just, not to be cryptic. So I got carjacked. I had someone crash through my fence. I have a puppy that's been in and out of the ICU for the last week. And then most importantly, I had a friend that got murdered last Tuesday unexpectedly in another city. And I'm still reeling from it. Yeah, just it's a lot going on outside of the normal everyday life and stuff that happens. So.
Yeah, Doc. I wish that. Yeah, I wish it got easier. Every time I show you an animation or we watch the animation together, I was like watching your face because I always see you smile. So I know those animations do bring you a moment of happiness.
I dive into work and I got to be careful because I know how I deal with stuff is I won't sleep. I will stop eating and I will start working and I will start running. So I'm trying to just deal with things as they come before I take off like Forrest Gump and just start running. I might need one to run today though. You have your up days and your down days. The material stuff can all be replaced. I'm glad I did not get injured, but losing a friend, I just talked to him Monday about him coming home and it just it blows me to discuss, but it's the best way rather than bottle it up because it can be rough some days, it's tough.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. All right. Well, yes, that is. And thank you all for your kind words. Dr. You're getting a lot of love here in the chat. Thank you, all of y'all, for all of your very kind words. It's been pretty intense for Dr.
But in the meantime, we did film. We've done voiceovers for 2 more animations, and we've got big talks going on. We've got a lot of big talks going on, just about the world. And the beauty of the cartoons is, what I love is that anything's possible. Like we can do anything. It's pretty amazing.
Right. There's a couple of ideas that I had. One of them is I would love to explain how the memory B cells and T cells work, Eric, and how people are always so concerned about whether or not how long do antibodies last? How many times have we heard that? How long do antibodies last? Antibodies. So what I want to do is use the analogy of how memory B cells are kind of like storing stuff on the cloud. And then when you need it, you know where it is because it's in a file that you've stored away. It's out of your way right now because you don't need it right now. But when you need it, you know how to find it. You pull it down, and it's as good as new. And that's what memory cells do. And we know that's a fact because they look back and, thank you, Angela, absolutely. They found that people who had SARS-CoV-1 in 2002, 2003 still have memory B and T cells toward the spike protein. So they're still able to get antibodies. So if they ever see the SARS-CoV-1 virus ever again, their adaptive immune system will be able to wake up immediately and be able to create new antibodies. Because think about this. You don't have antibodies in your system from when you had a cold when you were 5 or 10, right? Or last year. If you did, your bloodstream would be full of just sludge and proteins because that's just not the way it works. So antibodies are going to eventually taper down when they're not seeing or when they're not being stimulated or when they're not seeing whatever it is that they have been created for. They're going to eventually go away. That's just life. We just have to expect that. I don't have antibodies from when I was sick when I was 10 years old, and that's just ridiculous to think that anybody would have that. Why would we have antibodies long term for coronavirus? That just doesn't make sense. And I think that people don't understand that. But I think what people need to understand is that if after a year those antibodies taper down and then all of a sudden you see it again, boom, you go to your memory B and T cells, you wake those guys up, boom, they start making antibodies. And I think that would be such a really interesting topic.
Well, I think anything to you're hitting on the head, demystifying the immune system, which is something that we've been alluding to since the beginning of this. We're like, it's a lot more complicated than that. Then there's a T cell, and then there's humoral, and just explaining it in the way you just said, in a fun way, in less than a minute, where people can remember it, like with lyrics, possibly. I think it'd be really dope.
Absolutely. And the other video I want to do, I still want to do a video that leans toward getting that links toward vaccine hesitancy, but in a way that for populations that we wouldn't ordinarily be watching us or we wouldn't ordinarily be talking to. But I'm talking specifically about those that are on the conservative scale of the political spectrum and using very well-known conservatives that are pro-vaccine, like Chris Christie or what have you. And so we would animate them, of course, with everybody's permission. We're not trying to usurp anybody's personality or image, and then have them talk directly to folks that are experiencing vaccine hesitancy. The problem is, I think that that's going to be too late. Like, we need to be on that like now, like on the double, because these variants are so ubiquitous and so ready to explode. And certainly one of the things that I didn't prep for on today's show, but I guess it's worth talking about, is that, Doc Griggs, the rate of COVID in unvaccinated population are the same as the rate was for the general population in January and February. And right now, we are seeing communities explode with COVID that are poorly vaccinated or unvaccinated. And that's the next group of people that we expect to see problems from. So I think we talked a bit about that today on
yeah, we did. We absolutely did. Again, the teasing through that, it basically, if you're vaccinated, you're protected against the variants right now. If you've had both shots, though, only if you've had both shots. We need to, I'm reading Angela's statement. Yeah, we need to get back to the whole immunity thing, the whole nine. Again, Doc, if you want to talk.
Yeah, let me address that, Eric. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. I think it's such a good point. I really do want to get back to your point, Eric, because I think it's super important. But I want to address this really quickly. There are myths in medicine, and one of those myths in medicine, and I know, Angela, that you and I probably have a different way of looking at the body and healthcare. So I'm just going to share my understanding, and of course, the reason why I say that is Angela is a doctor who practices Chinese medicine. So the myth for me and the way I look at it, and again, Angela, I would love to hear your perspective on this, but your immune system can't really be stimulated. I mean, the only way in Western ideology to stimulate immunity is to not degrade immunity. So what are ways that you can not degrade immunity? Well, poor sleep will weaken your immune system. A poor diet will weaken your immune system. Sedentary lifestyle will weaken your immune system. And Doc Griggs, prior to COVID-19, his big, trademarked kind of thing was get checked, get fit, get moving. And these are all the things that you need to do to stimulate the immune system. So the best sleep that you can get, the best diet that you can get, and the most amount of exercise that you can get are really ways to stimulate the immune system. Now, what about people who are immunocompromised? Well, that's a whole different story. But unfortunately, sleep and eating getting enough sleep and eating right, and getting enough exercise is really something that people who are impoverished, people who are working multiple jobs, people who can't get childcare, people who are really living paycheck to paycheck can't afford to do. So in our American life, these are things that are actually opportunities that people who are privileged are able to do. Eric, any thoughts on that?
Reading her comment, I didn't get. I'm glad you addressed the myth of stimulating the immune system. One of the big things, of course, I say tell people to get checked, get fit, get moving, go to the doctor, eat healthy foods, and pay attention to portion size, and of course, drink water, exercise. But the big thing is sleep. It's during REM sleep, our deep sleep, REM sleep, rapid eye movement sleep, that growth hormone comes out, and it works to help repair any of the damage and help our bodies get back into tip-top shape to prepare for the next day. We don't get enough sleep. We are overstimulated. What's funny is when I have people come up to me and say, Doc, I heard that the white light and the blue lights are terrible. I saw it last night on TV when I couldn't sleep at 3 a.m, and then I turned off the TV, so I started looking on my phone and the internet, and I stayed up for 2 more hours. It's sleep, and more sleep. So it's a huge thing. And again, as far as what you should eat what you can tolerate, of course, if you have intolerances or allergies. But you want to color up your plate with the fruits and vegetables and drink a lot of water. The body is made up of 4 things: proteins, carbs, fats, and water. That means if we truly are what we eat, which we are, we should be eating proteins, carbs, fats, and water. Didn't say anything about meat. Didn't say anything about alkaline water. Didn't say anything about any of that.
What about sugar?
Well, that's the other thing. Well, you get the sugars in your foods. So we're bags of proteins, carbs, fats, water, and salts. They're mineral salts. And the sugar, the energy, is inherent in the food. That's the whole purpose of eating it, is to get to the energy sources. Problem is we find comfort in food. We eat when we exercise. We eat when we eat. I know people that eat their dessert while they're eating their main plate because they make sure they get it in. So you want to be careful about that. Make sure you get your sleep. Sleep.
Yeah, absolutely. Sleep's so important. All right, so going back to people take their phones to bed with them. Eric, talk a little bit about that. When you talk about overstimulation.
Yeah. So the thing is, though, it's a bad habit that we're starting with our kids. I mean, the first thing that most people grab in the morning is their phone, and they wonder why their vision's getting bad. They wonder why they end up with tech neck. They wonder why they end up with carpal tunnel syndrome, and most importantly, they wonder why they can't sleep. A lot of people experience things through the lens of the camera and the screen on their phone, as opposed to experiencing them in real life. Something magical can happen to you and in front of you, and the first thing people do is grab a phone. So it turns on there's dopamine attached to it, so it becomes an addictive behavior, and it doesn't turn off. It's not like unless you set your phone to turn off at a certain hour, it doesn't turn off. So you end up, we're overstimulated. We don't give ourselves time to process or recover.
Eric, what are your thoughts about prior to the pandemic, whenever you'd go to a concert, I almost felt like I was watching a show through other people's phones that were standing in front of me.
That's exactly what it was, and it was all cool when we first started doing it because people were holding up their phones and it almost looked like the candle lights, like the whole there's a Coca-Cola commercial back when we were young. They would be doing the candles and you see the lights and all. No, it's lights and cameras because people are videoing. You're at a live. You paid $100 a ticket for a concert for you to sit there and watch it on your phone.
I do not understand. I do understand. I think Dave Chappelle or other comedians and other musicians will have you come and you have to put your phone and lock it up so that you can.
I went to Chris Rock concert and you put it in a locker in a bag.
Yeah. Yeah. How was it?
If you have a phone.
How was it?
No, the concert was amazing. It just felt very strange. Not having my phone. I'm not doing this for 5 minutes.
I'm watching. We're watching the 4th season of Fargo, and Chris Rock is just brilliant, man. He's brilliant. It's to see him do non-comedic acting. It's really amazing. The other thing I was going to say too is that I too wake up in the morning and look at my phone, but it's just what I used to do with the newspaper. Instead of getting up and going to the door or going to the front door and grabbing my newspaper, my newspaper really comes to me now, to a large degree through my phone. But I do hear that, and I.
But so you were mentioning prior to COVID. I will say this: my sources of news have changed dramatically since all this happened. I mean, I don't even entertain the myth or the disinformation sites. The sites that we use are typically the ones. Of course, I watch Fox 8. Smart move. Watch Fox 8. And then I go to The Guardian. I go to Stat News. I go to the stuff that we've been reading. So as we're ready at all times to give the most correct and important information to our folks that pay attention to us.
Yep, absolutely. Yeah, news source is super important. All right, well, let's go ahead and let's get started here. Whoops, that's not what I meant to do. You figure. You're funny, Dorian Gray Alexander. You're very, very funny. I was gonna say this. You know, the Google News app is really, really good. It really does do a very good job figuring out. And I know that I live in a bubble to a certain degree, but it figures out what it is that I like and what I want to read about, and that's what it gives me. But I am very, very specific about my news, and I'm able to filter out all the garbage news sites as well. All right, I had a really hard time finding general news stories, Doc Criggs. And one of the things I think I'm gonna do is we're getting, like I mentioned, I may be able to hire somebody that may be able to start prepping stories for us, which would be awesome. But anyway, here we go. So while I was trying to find general news stories, all I kept hitting was still COVID stories. But here, India says COVID variant concern. We know that. You and I have been talking about this, and we're going to talk about it's Delta virus emerged out of India. The Delta variant rather emerged out of India. It's the B1617 variant. It has this K417N mutation in it. And you see here it has been associated with antibody escape. So what does that mean? It means that for some reason the variant is able to escape not only natural immunity that's for people who've actually had COVID in the past, but vaccine-induced immunity. Now, one of the things that we were just getting to when we kind of got sidetracked was looking specifically at what the numbers show. And this is something that we talked about today on the WBAK segment, was that if you got an mRNA vaccine, 2 doses of mRNA vaccine, you're about 88% protected with the against the Delta variant. If you got an AstraZeneca injection, which again is very much very similar to the Johnson & Johnson, but they didn't do Johnson & Johnson, so we don't know. And so we can't extrapolate the data, but I think it does give us a good idea that if you got the AstraZeneca vaccine, you got a 60% protection against the Delta variant. And if you got one shot of the mRNA vaccine or the AstraZeneca vaccine, because the AstraZeneca is 2 shots, if you got one shot, you had a 30% protection. And then, of course, just to be very clear about this Delta variant, that the Wuhan virus, the virus that emerged out of Wuhan, I do say that every once in a while, and I get accused appropriately so, because other people say the Wuhan virus. The variant that emerged out of Wuhan, or what we refer to as the wild type virus, that virus is, let's just say, is X infectivity, right? The alpha variant that emerged out of London is 60 times, so it's 60x infective than the wild type virus, the variant that emerged out of Wuhan. This new Delta is 60 times more infective than the alpha variant. So this is a hugely infectious virus, and not only is it hugely infectious, it also is more virulent, so it causes more issues as well. And so that is wildly, something that we need to be aware of. And this is why it's going to rip through these communities that are not vaccinated, or that are poorly vaccinated, or even for people who only got one vaccine. Now, you can say, well, it's 88% effective if I had my 2 mRNA vaccines. Okay, great. So there's 2 questions that come that stand. One is, so that means 12% of the time. So 1 out of 10, that's not insignificant. 1 out of 10 people are going to potentially be infected. But it's the sort of thing where if you had gotten COVID and you weren't vaccinated, that would be a home run. If you are vaccinated, it's like a field ball. Is that right? No. What's a ball that goes only into the field? Like a grounder. Basically the symptoms are a lot less. I try to use a sports analogy.
Nice try though. It was good. No, it was good. We followed.
I totally failed. So it's a much less. So if it was something that was going to put you in the hospital, you may just get a little common cold from it now. So that's something that's important. And I haven't seen any data on gamma. Now, the next important question, and this is an incredibly important question, is this. is what about people who have had the Johnson & Johnson vaccine or the AstraZeneca vaccine? Should they go and get like 1 dose of an mRNA vaccine? To be honest with you, this is, huge, like, let me just say this. Right now, there is no data on this.
Yeah.
There is no official recommendation on this.
Yeah.
I would not recommend anybody to do this. So this is just me, my own opinion. But it doesn't seem like if I had gotten the Johnson & Johnson vaccine, would I go and get an mRNA vaccine right now because they're so ubiquitous? I may do it. I'd probably do it. I'd probably go. We know that it's safe. We've seen people in Canada mix up the vaccines, and they know that they do well. I'm not suggesting people go and do it at all. I would not be surprised, however, if we get to the point where that recommendation is made now. Eric?
Yeah, just stay tuned on that one. This is all the part of the process. Anecdotally, we do know that people in Canada did not have a problem with it, but we want to wait and see, though. I mean, you're going to find out more positive stuff as things come out about these mRNA vaccines. This is we're living at some great times. I mean, it's real.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. So again, so we know that the Delta variant is a real big concern, and so this next story was actually looking at the mutation. So I thought it'd be kind of interesting to kind of delve into what the mutation is. So what is the 417? So now this is the first time I'm ever hearing about this. This Delta Plus. But Delta Plus is this sublineage that has this 417 a mutation in it. It's a mutation of interest. We did see it in the beta variant. That was what emerged out of South Africa. It's being found all over the world. And some of the big concerns, essentially, as we mentioned before, is vaccine evasiveness, as well as greater amount of virulence associated with it. So that's what we are seeing with the so-called 417. And let me just wrap up by saying that I think it's in one of our rundown stories, but we are going to be seeing a lot more of the Delta variant. The last I heard over the weekend, Eric, maybe you have some better numbers, was that we're at about 10% right now in the U.S.
Yeah, it was at 6, and it's up 2 weeks to 10. So just follow the pattern of the B117, or is that alpha?
That's alpha.
Yeah, just follow that pattern. You'll see. And folks, this isn't rocket science. Like, it's public health. It's another form of science. But if you just pay attention to our history, just the history that we have, and watch patterns of what's happened in other countries and to other people, you get the same result from similar behaviors. All we have to do is just mitigate based on what we observe.
Right. And then one of the things I always mention to people is that public health is actually pretty easy. Remember, the biggest public health interventions was Dr. John Snow taking a pump off of a pump handle, or Dr. Ignaz Semmelweis in the 1800s. Women were dying of bedbirth fever, which was ended up through beach strep. He just got doctors to wash their hands, and all of a sudden everything got better. So public health interventions are easy, and with COVID, it was masking, social distancing, and then ultimately hand washing, of course, and then ultimately getting vaccinated. So these interventions are easy; they're straightforward. Public health is easy and straightforward. I hate to say it like that, but it is true. So anyway, Eric, anything on your end here?
No, we just need to brace ourselves and wear a mask. Be smart, folks. We're trying to avoid another wave, and everything that we're doing is just really confusing times right now, you know?
Right. Yeah, absolutely. All right. Let's just kind of, I'm just kind of skipping the majority of these stories. I'll just kind of go over them really quickly because I think they're kind of interesting. Here was a story looking at the song stuck in your head is good for your memory. So it turns out when you have a song stuck in your head, it actually plays an important role in memory formation. I wish we had more time to go over, but I thought
It's called an earworm. It's called an earworm.
yeah, it is the earworm effect, which is a very disturbing visualization.
Yeah.
The Epstein-Barr virus reactivation may be a cause of long COVID symptoms. I wish we could go through this story. This is fascinating. Another place where Epstein-Barr virus may be causing problems. And again, remember, it's not the virus that's causing the problems per se. It's the inflammation as a result of the immune system having to deal with that virus that causes problems. But really fascinating element of what could be causing post-COVID syndrome. And so that's something for us to follow. So probably some of the biggest stories we've seen, and I actually agree with it, and I think it's good, that this Houston hospital system fired 150 employees who refused to get vaccinated. These employees filed a lawsuit and it was dismissed by a judge. The judge says any claims that the vaccines are experimental or dangerous or false. That was what they were going with, the idea that these were quote-unquote experimental vaccines. We know that's not the case. And we talked about today on the BOK show that your employee can fire you for not being vaccinated, and we certainly saw that here. Your thoughts on that, Doc?
No, I mean, we've been saying that for a while. Matter of fact, about a month, 2 months ago, it was a debate whether or not employers could actually do so, and now it came out that they could. I mean, if you're going to be taking care of people, if you're going to be in the line of fire, just get the shot.
Yeah, absolutely. This was kind of the first big test. We knew that the EEOC, we reported here on NoiseFilter, when the story first came out, I was surprised that more people were talking about it. We talked about it here, the EEOC, and I forget what that stands for. That's the Equal Employment. It's the federal
commission,
yeah,
maybe.
Yeah, it's the federal commission that deals with labor law. And early on, the EEOC basically said, yes, we are clearing the way to mandate vaccinations. Employers can get employees to vaccinate. And you can see here what we saw was the Houston hospital they fired. Listen, I feel bad for 150 people who don't have a job anymore, but you're in healthcare. You're in the wrong profession if you deny vaccinations. Like that's a fundamental, that's like saying I don't want to that's like a race car driver refusing to put a seatbelt on. You know, you put the harness, the special neck thing that they wear. It's like a basketball player refusing to tie their shoes. There's like some fundamental basics in whatever profession that you go into that it's like going on the radio and signing, it just doesn't make sense, right? It just doesn't make sense. And so and forgive me for, I wasn't mocking when I did that. I wasn't trying to be funny. I was not being disrespectful to people who are hard of hearing. But the point that I'm making is that I'm sorry that 150 people lost their jobs, but I think that was the right decision that needed to happen. And yes, Angela, we are still working on we're creating a lab here in New Orleans. It's called the NOLA, what's it called? NOLAvariancelab.org. It's the name of the lab. We'll have more information about it. We're still applying for funding. I'm working with the great Dr. Trivia Frazier on this, and we were able to get a collaboration between LSU and Ochsner on this, so I think it's really awesome. That's funny. Here's a radio expert right here, medium-specific humor. He's an expert in radio, especially community radio. All right. So what else do we have here? Going on to our stories real quick. The Inspector General of the Department of Health and Human Services reports that deaths amongst Medicare patients in nursing homes soared 32% last year. About 40% of Medicare recipients in nursing homes had or likely had COVID. Think about that. About 40% of Medicare recipients in nursing homes. A Harvard health policy professor said we knew it was going to be bad. I didn't even think those of us who work in this area thought it was going to be that bad. Can you imagine almost 50% of people who were elderly that lived in nursing homes had COVID? That is just incredible. Canada will start relaxing its quarantine requirements for fully vaccinated U.S. residents. It means people like myself who have lots of family in Montreal, Canada, can actually go to Canada now. Unfortunately, Canada's vaccination program is much slower than the US. I think I've been hearing about people who have been having a hard time getting vaccinated. Researchers in England are trying to find out if the flu shot and the vaccine can be given at the same time. If so, that could save resources for healthcare providers and make things more convenient for consumers. Flu cases were basically non-existent last winter, but it's assumed with restrictions being lifted, a resurgence of flu viruses can be expected. Yes, yes, and most definitely, yes, that is definitely going to happen. We heard about various groups who are reluctant to get vaccinated, but one group leads the way in vaccine acceptance: doctors. A survey by the American Medical Association shows that 96% of practicing physicians have been fully vaccinated, and of the 4% who are, only 1.8 plan on never getting the vaccine. So our colleagues, dude, after just saying things like I just said about the 150 people who refuse to get vaccinated, thankfully 96% of doctors are, and almost 2% are saying that they'll never get vaccinated. What are your thoughts on that? We can't hear you, Eric. You're on mute.
I think that makes absolutely no sense. What, to not get vaccinated? I mean, everyone has their right to do so, but it's oxymoronic to me.
Yeah, it's crazy, especially coming again from clinicians. So 2% of doctors not wanting to get vaccinated. WHO, going back to the Delta variant, warned the Delta variant is the fastest and strongest strain yet, one that'll pick off the most vulnerable. And by the most vulnerable, they mean the unvaccinated. It called the fact that we haven't protected frontline workers a catastrophic moral failure at a global level. Delta has now spread to 92 countries. And if I say so myself, Dr. that I was very vocal about that this morning on the BOK segment.
Absolutely. Yep.
About the unbelievable crime, vaccine apartheid, and the crime against, I think, humanity by the fact that we've not globally vaccinated individuals. And so I think that it's really quite sad. We need to be vaccinating now. And if people here don't want the vaccine, great, then let's pack them up and let's move them out to the rest of the world, because there's people in Africa, there's people around the world who definitively want to get the vaccine. I did read about Indiana University students suing schools. I can assure you, here's what's going to happen. Lawsuit is not going to go anywhere at all, period, end of discussion.
I wanted to talk to Katie about that. So I think she says tribal or indigenous radio stations keep producing PSAs encouraging people to get vaccinated. But I'm glad, but what you're saying that, are they alone in that? I mean, what's the attitude outside of the tribes and the indigenous folks towards vaccinations there?
Eric, were you on when I had my formal medical assistant from the Navajo reservation? When
you stayed there? You stayed?
But Shyla was on. I don't know if you were on. Do you remember when Shyla was on? Shyla Gray Mountain.
I remember Shyla, but I think she was on. Was she on more than once?
She was on just once. I can't remember if you were on that show or not. Her name was Shyla Gray Mountain, and Shyla is a person of Navajo descent. She was on for the hour, and she broke down several times, crying about how vulnerable the elderly were, and in the Navajo tradition. And I don't know of all of the indigenous populations. But certainly I know the Navajo was there for 4 years. I have a pretty good idea about Navajo life, but there is a reverence toward the elderly, and a very, very strong reverence for the elderly. We don't see that here in this podcast.
I think I was on for that show.
Yeah.
I remember that for some reason.
And how all the young people went and got vaccinated immediately because they knew that they were protecting the elderly, and how important it was to make sure that the elderly were being protected. And she broke down also talking about the number of elderly who died from COVID. It was such a hard show. But she said that she'd love to come back on. She texted me. She was supposed to come on the Friday after, but then life happened, but she definitely wants to come back on. But I just wanted to read Katie's comment here. She says, so far here from the tribal stations is that there on developing protocols from early on alongside messaging. And that's just the way it has to happen because it's coming from people. I'm sure that these PSAs are happening in the traditional languages that are being spoken, and you're going to more likely listen to people who you know and trust. This is largely why Doc Griggs and I got vaccinated early on TV. And I would say probably about a dozen or so people had come up to me and said to me, I got vaccinated because I saw you on TV getting vaccinated, and I trust you and I trust Doc Griggs. When I saw you guys get vaccinated, I knew it was the right thing for me to do was to get vaccinated as well. And so I think that those points are well taken. Let me just kind of push through. Eric, anything to add to that, or should I just push through? I can't hear you. I think you're on mute again. I think Doc Griggs is frozen. Yep, Eric is frozen. Hopefully we'll get him back. And then just following up on what Katie said was that lots of concern and care for elders because vulnerable and because they are the language keepers. Absolutely. And Tamiko says yes. And I think that in Japan, in Japanese culture, there's also a reverence for the elderly as well. All right, so let me just kind of wrap up here. Indonesia is having a very large uptick in cases that we have been following as well. Many of the unvaccinated around the world fear what might become a reality in Manila. The president there has threatened to jail people who refuse to take the shots. He was very clear. You choose vaccine or I'll have you jailed. The target is to vaccinate 70 million people this year, and so far they're at 2.1 million, which is just insane.
Wow.
Never underestimate how serious people are about not taking the vaccine. Buffalo Bills wide receiver Cole Beasley said he'll literally retire from the sport and end his career rather than get a vaccine.
Well, let him retire.
Yeah, do you know anything about this? Anything about this?
I haven't heard that.
Yeah, I've been hearing people talk about it as well. And so a professional athlete who refuses to get vaccinated as well, which is crazy. And I appreciate both of you guys. Very, very kind comments as well. I hear that a lot. A lot of people say that they quote me and Doc Griggs all the time when they're talking to other people, so I do appreciate it. So let me just kind of rip through some of our data here real quickly. Eric, we're at 180 million, 154,087 cases. Global deaths, which is a gross underestimation, is rapidly approaching 4 million cases. We are at a record low of 376,297 cases last night in the past 24 hours and 8,631 deaths, which is really low, but of course, much love and peace to those families. So here you can see we reached kind of a quasi low. That was the lowest that we'd seen since February or so. So when I said that, kind of an all-time low meant, of course, over the course since we've seen that spike. But as of right now, it looks like it's hitting a plateau. And hopefully that'll continue to fall. I'm afraid it's not, because what we're going to see is the Delta variant transmit pretty rapidly. We are seeing, fortunately, a very nice downward trend in mortality as well. And when we look at hotspots, it's more or less the same since we last broadcasted. We're still seeing a lot of South America. We're starting to see South Africa really light up now in ways that we have not seen previously as well. And this is, of course, a concern. And Mongolia, and these are areas that are pretty well vaccinated. So this is of great concern as well. So we'll continue to follow with that. In terms of where we are with US, 34,441,527. The number of deaths are 618,088. New cases, 12,874, 431 deaths. I brought this in because I did want to show that right now Missouri is the highest, it has the highest number of cases in the country, and that's largely being driven by lack of vaccination. So these are people that are unvaccinated. When you look at the whole We are at the lowest that we've ever been with 23.8 per 100,000. So you can see that number has just been going down, 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 down. I think we hit a total of 150 per 100,000. So we are seeing it go down. And again, we're seeing numbers here that we have seen since here. So we are really seeing a significant decline in numbers. When you look at those that are fully vaccinated in the country, it's 45%. When you look at those that are 18 and above, it's 56%. When you look at 65 and above, it's 77%. So here's the big news from this, and that is, I would love your input on this, Dr. Riggs, is that we are not going to be meeting President Biden's goal of 70% of the country being vaccinated by July 4th. Do you think that he just overshot? Do you think that they really believed it? Do you think he just said it just to give a target? What are your thoughts on that? Like,
I think he said, my answer, I like yes and all of the above. I do think he said it to give target, but I think there were some unforeseen circumstances, like the pause with the J&J and the incident of those strokes with the AstraZeneca. I think that we're hitting a wall with the number. We have hit the wall with the number of people that wanted to actively get vaccinated. I just think we have to double down on our efforts to encourage people to do so and do a lot more explaining of the whys in the simplest ways possible. It's just going to take time. I mean, it's a big fight. Whatever principles we use to get everyone to wear seatbelts, we really need to start working on that type of campaign now.
Yeah, but you know what they were able to do? They charged people for not wearing seatbelts. And
That's the difference.
And when you got a ticket and you kept paying, because you're like, I'm not going to pay this bill. Well, eventually they don't let you renew.
You can't drive
on your car. They take your license away. Like they will eventually get to you. We can't do that, unfortunately, with vaccines. Real quickly, as we're kind of trying to wrap up the show here, I do want to show where we are in terms of country of the world. 2.7 billion doses with 41.7 million doses a day. That's insane. Here in the U.S., it's 119 million doses with about 1 million doses a day. Our rates here in Louisiana are a little better. You can see Mississippi and Alabama have the worst rates. We were one step away from. We were having the same color as them, but not quite as much. And you can see that in Louisiana, we're only 36.5% of the total population that is covered. So that's going to be problematic moving forward. Thank you to Ryan White Part F for allowing for us to do this. Looking at coronavirus cases here in Louisiana, 478,946. We're rapidly approaching 479,000. So almost 500,000 cases. Deaths are 10,709. We're still seeing some cases here. Last night, 325 cases and 6 deaths, but we have definitely reached a plateau. Again, 34% have been fully vaccinated. It's a little bit more for 18 and over, 43%, and then 74% for those that are a bit older. Testing has stalled. Hospitalization has kind of gone down and remained down. The deaths match kind of what cases are doing as well. Looking at the numbers, specifically new cases are 6.1 per 100,000, which is great. We're under 1 for infection rate. Our test positivity is under 5%. And again, Louisiana, 37.5% at least have had 1 dose. And in Orleans Parish, we're at 2.7 per 100,000. Wow. We're 0.83 infection rate. Test positivity looks nice, 50% vaccination. So in Orleans Parish, we are really one of the success stories here of cities that are our size. Eric, we're butting up against time. Last words, we got to go in like 10
No, just go ahead. Encourage everyone to get vaccinated, get checked, get fit, get moving, get sleep, get vaccinated.
That's right. Everybody, health is a human right. Peace out. We'll see you guys on Friday. We love you. Thank you guys for tuning in.